Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast that celebrates the fact that Celtic have fans all over this great big planet. From Salt Coats to Seoul, Hawick to Ho Chi Minh City. Wherever you happen to be watching from, you're very much part of A Celtic World. And Stephen, our regular in Sydney, I hear you ask, why am I mentioning places like Seoul and Hawick in the intro? Isn't that what you're thinking?
And Saltcoats. I was wondering about that one too.
Well, I was trying to tee you up there to explain why our two guests, one who's in Seoul and the other who's in Hawick, aren't yet here. So we're having to get cracking, just the two of us, building castles in the sky.
That's right, it's just like the old days, isn't it? Just me and you shooting the shit, chewing the fat, and talking. That what we need a guy from Valencia with a dodgy internet connection, and it'll be like an origin story.
Well, hello to everyone who's in the chat. There's Tam Mac. There's Monty saying hello, Dickie Stevens. Not often there's just two of us. I see Lewis is backstage, so he'll be joining us shortly. Maybe once he's got a little bit more light on his face, that would be good. Who else is here? Christoph. Chill Pill. Big Des. All the heavy hitters. Jason. How you doing, everyone? Good to see you all. Oh, look at David Clarkson is saying, hail, hail from Myanmar. Where's Myanmar? What's it otherwise known as, Stephen?
Well, that was the artist formerly known as Burma, wasn't it?
It is indeed. Myanmar. All right. Well, having said there's nobody else here, that's not true. I wonder, does his microphone work? Is it all going to go smoothly? We don't know because he's just showing up, and here he is. It's Lewis. How you doing, Lewis?
He's not bad. How are you?
How are you?
You hear me okay?
I'm just going to edit your name. This is all the stuff we do backstage, you see. You are in Seoul, and you were on before as part of Seoul CSE, you and Dumbarton Tam.
Yeah, that's the one.
Who learned all his Scottish from Burniston and Chewing the Fat, which just got a mention.
He did. He's a good lad.
He is indeed. Now, the fourth person to join us would have been, or might still be, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. The author of this book, interestingly, Lewis, John White, who's been on the show before. He's a published author. This Boxing Game, A Journey in Beautiful Brutality. What sets this book apart from the others of the genre is the way in which White looks at their lives outside the ring and the politics surrounding their fights and the sport itself. A Journey in Beautiful Brutality is not only a must-have for people who love boxing, it's almost a must-read for anyone who has set eyes on a boxing ring. So that was going to be very interesting, putting him together with you, wasn't it, Lewis? That was a good idea.
Yeah, no, it was a great idea. It's really interesting. Because a lot of people don't kind of appreciate what goes on to, like, they'll watch the fight night and they'll see the highlights, but the worst part of boxing isn't the fight. It's the preparing for the fight and everything around the fight, getting the fight booked, dealing with promoters, dealing with agents. It's really, really exhausting. It takes a lot of time, and that's the tough part people don't see. And I'm assuming that's a lot of what we'll be covering, because it can be political. It can be sort of really embedded into who the fighter is, where they're from, and their identity. So it's a big part of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I don't see any message from John, so I'm going to just assume that he's not here. So we'll carry on, regardless. I have a little clip if you hear, Lewis. Before I play it, Stephen, are you a fight fan? And I don't mean just outside the pub in your youth, because somebody looked at your missus the wrong way.
Well, that never happens. But yeah,
I wonder how which bit never happens there.
Yeah, I've been a few fight nights in my time. Yeah, back in the day, I used to know quite well a boxer from Irvine called Paul Weir. And I went to a couple of his fights back in the day. I think he was a world champion at one point. I went to a couple of Pat Clinton's fights. This is all years and years ago when I was still living in Scotland. So yeah, I quite like boxing.
Well, we're going to have a little clip of Lewis in action. Lewis, maybe you can talk us through some of this.
Sure. There you go.
Tell us what this occasion was.
So this was the it was the undercard for the Asia Championship for the WBO. I think it's the Asia Pacific specifically, and yeah, I had a 4-round fight, and yeah, no, it was good fun. It's one of those ones where, yeah, no, it's the fight itself is really fun. It's the preparing for the fight that's not fun. Getting in there is a lot of fun, a lot of action. I'm a very forward pushing fighter, as you can tell by the fact I'm on the front foot every single clip. But yeah, no, I love boxing. I think it's really exciting. It's really fun. Yeah, nothing beats it.
You get quite a lot of few shots in here, but then there's one where he catches you. It's in that corner. It's coming up shortly.
Yeah,
it's a brutal fight.
It's one where, good fight. I'd clipped him with the left, and I saw him wobbled. I'm like, right, I need to go in.
There you
Didn't
go.
see the counter come in. Wobbles me a bit. Managed to recover quite quickly, but yeah, no,
instantly, Lewis. You've got a strong jaw.
It ends up quite the slugfest, and it's
you can see how tired you're looking now. Look at that. You're both exhausted.
It's brutal. But I mean, you can't not love it. It's pure passion, pure. Yeah, a lot of fun. Can't beat it.
I've always thought that the best boxers are not the ones that can throw the best punches, but the ones that can take a punch and still maintain your thought processes, basically. Because normally, I mean, I've been punched a few times, and the one thing that you notice is that your brain just basically shuts down once you get punched, and your body goes into some kind of shock reaction.
Yeah.
But if you can, I take my hat off to anybody that can take a proper punch in the face and still just respond with throwing more punches.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. It's the ability to stay calm in that situation, because it's really weird. Like, it doesn't hurt. Like, a lot of people think, it's 8-ounce gloves, it's going to really hurt. It's like at the time it doesn't hurt. It's like, it's just your brain kind of turns, like, it flashes. It's like, okay, either you have two options. Either you just let your adrenaline take over, or you try and compose yourself. And the latter part is much harder. Letting your adrenaline take over, anyone can do that. But then you're just swinging for the fences. Being able to try and stay composed and stay defensively sound while really, really shook is that's the harder part. That's the difference. That's what separates the champions from the lower down guys.
Yeah, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face, as they say.
Yeah, Mike Tyson said that, and it's true.
There's one thing I was thinking about. I was going to talk generally with you and John about this. Is like how the boxing game has changed so much. It used to be so important. When Stephen, when you and I were young, boxing was massive. The big fights, the days of Barry McGuigan and Dave Boy McCauley. I was particularly interested in. But what do you call your man? I can box, I can flug. The monocle wearing.
Chris Eubank.
Yeah, Chris Eubank. And all the heavyweight stuff that was going on. Massive news. I remember staying up late at night to listen to Frank Bruno fight Mike Tyson on the radio or my mate's house. Right. And boxing has kind of fallen away so much, hasn't it, in the public eye? What are the reasons for that?
I think a couple of things. I think it's mainly fallen out of favour in like the Europe and America, sort of the Western sort of hemisphere, so to speak. But when it comes to like Latin America and South America, boxing is still number one. Like, boxing is still the number one sport in Mexico. It's still the number one sport in most of Latin America. So that's where, if you look at the pay-per-view numbers, a lot of these big boxing events are still exceeding, which the big comparative is the UFC. But I think the big difference has been the obsession with certain fighters, I think, in the post-Mayweather era, of protecting the record, which means you're less likely to get the best versus the best. which is what people want to see ultimately. When you're watching Frank Bruno versus Mike Tyson, you're watching two of the best in the heavyweight division. The only time we've seen two of the best heavyweight division fight in the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years has been just recently with the Saudi Arabia money coming in and forcing that to happen. It's like you throw enough money at something, eventually it will happen. Usyk versus Tyson should have happened a long time ago. Joshua versus Tyson should have happened when they were both world champions, but there wasn't the money in the sport at the time that those guys would be willing to risk losing that record, losing that ability to say that they were undefeated. But when you look at the great champions of the past, well, in the chat there I see Hagler and Hearns mentioned, it's like, yeah, the four kings all fought each other and they all lost. They all have losses on the records. Sugar Ray Leonard lost to Roberto Duran. He ended up avenging his losses, but it's like that doesn't happen if you're not willing to fight the best. And a lot of these guys in the post-Mayweather era aren't willing to fight the best because they want to be undefeated. They want to be the bigger name. And that's where a lot of the credit for UFC kind of comes in, is that the fighters don't really retain a lot of power. That is the downside of it. If you look at the pay, boxers tend to make a lot more money. Even with less viewers, boxers will make a lot more money. But with the UFC, because the promotion sort of retains total control, it's the best versus the best. And as a consequence of that, the action of the fans is that you can lose a fight and still be okay. It's not a problem. But in boxing, losing a fight is a big deal. It's a big, it's a kind of big hurt for a lot of fighters. And how they respond to it obviously matters a lot, but having to respond to it is also a big problem for a lot of fighters, especially when you get to a certain level of what we expect. Expect a certain sort of prestige.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we wish you all the very best in your boxing career. Keep us informed if there's any exciting fights come up or highlights or anything to show. Let me just show the menu.
On the 9th of March.
Yeah.
So if anyone's in Korea and wants tickets, you can message me on Instagram, 9th of March. And so I've got another fight coming up, so let me know.
And your name is Lewis BT on Instagram.
Correct. My handle is Lewis Boxeo, boxing in Spanish.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we're not going to talk about boxing all night long. It was due to have been the first thing we spoke about, and it was, albeit without the esteemed author who is unable to meet us and join us tonight due to unforeseen circumstances, which we're yet to be advised of. So that was seconds out. And now we're going to talk about the Killie Cup conquest, because the most recent game is going to be the most informative as to where we are as a team going into this massive game, which is obviously point 3 there. Step up home, boys. The Champions League is a step up, we all agree, from domestic competition. We're at home. The Bhoys are at home. The boys, as in the young ones, are not. So come on, we're at home to not a great side, it would seem. So it's exciting. I mean, this is it. Destiny awaits us in this next game. So we're going to talk about what shape we're in going into that, and then a little bit of Celtic socials if we have time. All right, how does that sound to you, Stephen?
You okay, mate?
Yeah, obviously I'm looking for you to fill in slightly there as I pull up a picture.
Well, that sounds absolutely fabulous, Gav. I think that's a great plan and well put together, if you don't mind me saying so.
Okay, that's quite enough. All right. Well, let's talk about the game. I found this was another game I didn't watch live, but I found it to be very similar in some ways to the Dundee game, as in we played pretty well and created a hatload of chances. And anyway, we'll see quite how many when we go through this. This was right at the very start of the game, Stephen. The ball over the top of the defence from Hatate onto Kuhn. Remember this?
Yeah, Kuhn just shows his pace there and just shows exactly what we've been missing when he's been out of the team. And he's bore right down on the keeper. Keeper's come out. He's been really brave. Got down at his feet to make the save, and he's took one in the face, unfortunately. Completely accidental. and just one of these things. So, sorry for the goalkeeper, but he did used to play for Rangers, so that's what you get.
That's what you get. Never forgiven. Oh, this was the starting lineup. Actually, I was supposed to show this initially. Do you think, Lewis, that this is going to be the team that lines up against Young Boys, and that's why it was the starting lineup here?
I think it has to be, for better or worse. I think the kind of problems we've seen, especially the Dundee game, kind of showed is that although we're offensively creating a lot of good chances, defensively we're a little bit not. There's ways to be exploited, and I think that's really frustrating because even a low-level Champions League side is still a step up from Dundee. So we can't afford to make sloppy mistakes the way we have been. So I'm more nervous than I think we should be this stage in the season. I think we've done brilliantly in the Champions League so far, but to sort of see that dip in form come to this stage of the season is really, it's a bit nerve-wracking. But I think that will be the lineup, and better than Dundee performance-wise against Kilmarnock at the weekend there. But I think we need some strengthening, if I'm honest, and I know that even if we do strengthen, it won't impact our squad in the Champions League. So it's a bit of a nervous time. I think hopefully, if anything, having new players in sort of gives a kick up the bum to the players that we do have that will be fielding to know, hey, you need to show up at these big occasions if you want to stay in the squad, and that maybe gives us the solidity we need, but it's a little bit rough.
Well, I think a lot of good things happened in this game to maybe to hearten us maybe a little bit. The game coming up, this is Maeda's first shot that was saved. Again, this was in the first couple of minutes, Stephen. Don't know what to say about that, really. A Murray free kick that they thought had hit the crossbar, but in fact Schmeichel got his hand to it, which could have turned out to be quite pivotal moment.
Yeah, I think it could have been that one. I think we broke up the park straight away from that incident and ended up with a shot and goal. Was that the Hatate shot? The Maeda shot that you just showed there? I think we got a quick breakaway from that one. So it was a nice little spell of play at both ends. But yeah, I think we played in the first half, especially. We played as well as we have all season. I thought we were excellent. We were cutting them open at will. Kuhn and Maeda on both sides just showed us what we've been missing with them being out of the team. And yeah, we definitely should have been at least 3 goals up at half time. But I don't think there was anything wrong with the performance first half anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there was this moment, and it was followed by the Maeda shot, because they both occurred on 7 minutes. Not sure why that comes after that one. A very tame effort from Hatate here. He had a couple of really tame efforts, as we'll see. He just didn't have his goal-scoring boots on. Kilmarnock shaping to shoot on 11 minutes. This one ended up in the back of the net, Lewis. Good to see him getting back on the score sheet.
Yeah, because I think, I don't know how many goals it was, but I think for a good chunk of the season there, he was our top goal scorer. He's just scored really good goals. So it's good to see him back in the score sheet, getting a bit of confidence back, because, I think when you do have a couple of bad performances, it can have a knock-on effect, but champions are made of the guys that, take on the chin, are happy to kind of keep moving forward, keep pushing forward. And when Kilmarnock kind of takes control of the game and just bungs it in himself, it's always good to see.
Yeah,
and he's so good at that, isn't he? He's so good at that, getting the ball outside the box, just getting his head over it and firing it into either corner. And the accuracy is what takes it away from the goalkeeper there. I mean, he's a good 20 yards, at least 20 yards out when he's took that shot, and he's fired it right into the corner. It doesn't even look as if he's hit it particularly hard. It's just the accuracy is just amazing, and he's really, really, really good at those types of shots.
Big Des is saying we still look jaded. Hope Brendanrodgers is making sure that we go into this one stronger and more focused. I think we did look quite jaded, but I think the last 2 games, people are being quite hard on us in terms of our performances. I think we've just failed to be clinical in front of goal. That's our biggest sin. But I think we created plenty, and there was reasonable energy going on in both games. It's my tuppence worth. Let's move it on. This is Kyogo through from another Hatate pass. To be fair to Hatate, I'm generally quite down on him, but he did play a couple of penetrative passes. You had to put your house on Kyogo to score here, would you not, Stephen?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as soon as he shot, I thought it was going to. I was just expecting to see the net rippling, but all in all, probably a pretty bad miss because you can see there. I don't think the keeper's positioning is particularly great. I think he's got an awful lot of the goal to aim at, and he can either hit it either side of him or he could dink it over him even. So I think that was a pretty poor miss, and Kyogo had a few in that game, and has had a few recently, but not too concerned about Kyogo missing chances because he'll be there again when the next chance comes up, and good strikers always go through periods where they miss chances, but it's creating the chances that's the important thing, and he's getting into the positions and the goals will come again.
Getting into the important positions, if you do that, the goals will come. Somebody tell that to Rio Hatate, Lewis. What was this?
Yeah,
how did he contrive to miss that?
Yeah, really. It's one of those ones where you can't even you can't make it up. It is what it is. There's not really a lot to say about it. It's players should be doing better in situations like that. It's really tough.
I think if you're going to make any case for the defence there, what you might say is that the ball from Engels was absolutely fizzed in, and it was a really great pass from Engels, who Gav loves, and he's going to be effusive in his praise in a minute. But it was a really great ball across. Should have ended up being a brilliant assist. But I think the pace on it was just what took it off Hatate, and I think he probably made too good a contact on it. If he'd maybe sclaffed it a bit, it ended up in the corner.
Too good a contact. Cliche klaxon. Hit it too well, if anything. Is that what happened?
Anything, yeah.
Oh dear. You mentioned Engels there. The one thing he is undoubtedly good at is the powerful pass. He can hit a strong pass like nobody else you'd see in Scottish football. Got to give him that.
And to kind of hark on Hatate a bit, when you're in training, you're banging you're not hitting light passes to each other. You're hitting the hard passes because when it comes game time, you need to be game pace. Hatate should be hitting that better because that's the pace that Engels is going to be hitting at Hatate every day training. So there's no excuse.
There's no excuse for that too well. Jobs. You don't have to control it. Just get a decent contact on it and don't sky it. Exactly. It was one of those, to use a cliche Stephen's probably fond of, harder to miss. It's harder to miss.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sugarcoating. It was a bad miss when in the context of when you see the replay and you look at the still image that you had up there. But there is a little bit of mitigation in the pace that was on the ball, but he still should have scored. There's no getting away from that.
Did you see the miss by Cyril Dessers in the Rangers game? That was sent to our group chat by Ian, and he was saying, "Oh, look at this pathetic miss! Oh, what a waster!" or something. I said, "It's no worse than Hatate's," and he claimed that Dessers had an open goal and no goalkeeper. I'm scared to ask Stephen for his judgment on this because he seldom backs me up anymore. But
I have to be honest with you, I haven't seen the Dessers one, so I'll bow to your. I saw you and Ian kind of arguing about it, but I haven't clicked the video. I haven't watched it yet. I might go and do that just now, actually, and you can maybe fill in some time while I look at it.
Okay, while Stephen's doing that, then maybe he's going to the toilet as well. I'll leave a couple of images up for Lewis and I to talk through. Kyogo squares it for Kuhn. Defender gets in the way. This was another very dangerous moment. Yeah. Okay, this is the goal. Their handball, their penalty. What's your take on this, handball or not?
I don't think so, to be honest. I think it's one of those ones where the rules say if it bounces up off the arm, it shouldn't be. But refs will give everything nowadays. It's really frustrating. And you kind of see how players, like, his hands are glued to his side right now, right? It's like, what are you going to do? It's really tough. So, yeah, nah, I personally don't feel, but I can see why refs have to give it in situations like that, because that's the kind of standard that has been set for the season. They give everything. It's just how it is.
But it wasn't given.
Unfortunately for us.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think by the letter of the law, it's not a handball, or it's not an offence, because he didn't score the goal. The nonsense of it is, if he had controlled it himself in that same scenario and then scored, then it would have been a handball and it's no goal. But because it's gone to another guy, but the action of his arm has taken it away from the Celtic defender. So I don't see how you can, in all good conscience, how you can give a goal for that. I think it's got to be a handball. And as Kaiser points out there, he's impacted the movement of the ball in a positive way for them. So he's created the goal scoring chance by doing that. So I don't see how you can give that. But people who know about the IFAB rules and all that are all saying that that's the way the rules are set out. And if they are, then I guess we just have to take that one. But the rules definitely need looked at if that's the case, because that's a nonsense.
Similar point being made by Sterheed Rami there. The movement of his arm actually alters the trajectory of the ball into the path of the other Killie player. So it's not just a handball, it's an assist using his arm. And then various people in the comments are making similar points. Lewis, over to you.
Yeah, no, because it's like, if there's an advantage had, the rules should specifically call out the fact that it's like, if an advantage has been caused by if it's accidental, like, then fair enough, right? If it's bounced up off the hand, in the letter of the law is, if it bounces up off your hand, it's not a handball. There should be the caveat that it's like, right, does it cause an advantage? Does it cause an advantage enough that it causes a goal? Because, for example, if it bounced up off his arm and went in the goal, would they have counted it? Right? If he scored from that accidental handball, but it goes in the goal, I don't think they would have counted it. Usually, they'll give that to the referees for it's like, it's a referee's decision or whatever. But yeah, if it's given an advantage, but not directly caused the goal specifically, directly went in the goal, it's like it should be written in black and white in the rules, like, hey, was the opportunity created as a consequence of the handball? If yes, then it shouldn't be allowed to stand.
So that
a sort of more important point about that is that goal I'd like to see us focusing on more is the way Alistair Johnson allowed the cross to come in. I don't think Alistair Johnson had his best few weeks in a Celtic shirt. I'm a little bit concerned with his current form. And the fact that nobody really attacked the ball in the box and just cleared it out of there. And that's what you need to do in those circumstances. Once the ball starts bouncing around like that, then anything can happen. And it was a very, very undeserved goal for Kilmarnock because they hadn't been in it at all the whole game. And I think that's where our defending needs to be better. I think.
Monty thinks you're being a bit harsh.
Maybe, but I think if you're up against a team like Kilmarnock, you have to stop as many crosses coming out of the box as possible.
I'll back you up in saying that in isolation, I think it might be harsh, but in the context of the past few weeks of games, I don't think it is, because I think it's symptomatic of how we've been performing defensively as opposed to the be-all, end-all, because we won the game, we controlled the game, we're the better team. That's not really a question against Kilmarnock, but we've seen small mistakes that shouldn't be happening against lesser teams. That's not what you want to see as a Celtic fan. Like, you want to see that, okay, they're clinical in every avenue that we can be. We shouldn't be given free opportunities like that.
There's Tony asking what is an unnatural position. I think he's asking for trouble in our chat group there. There's going to be an unholy tangent following on from that. But that's sort of what I think about it, actually, is that it hit his arm, which was sort of flush to his body, really. His upper arm was flush to his body. So it's either a handball or it's not. And what happens after it, I mean, it's either illegal use of the arm or it isn't. But yeah, I don't know exactly. Anyway, we've moved on in the game. So where are we now? Start of the second half. Kyogo, who looks awesome when he's out wide, beats his man and whips in the kind of ball he'd love to get. The commentators were saying, if only he could cross to himself. But instead, he crossed to Kuhn, who nearly finished this. Lewis, you answer that. Mahesh wants to hear more from you.
Yeah, I think it's one of the commentator's right in saying it's like if he crossed himself, because he is a lot more clinical there, and it's really a shame that Kyogo, I don't know. It's like, I feel like he gets into those positions really well. So if we have someone else that is a bit more clinical in the box, even if it's like a number 10 that we can have, I think that helps. Kuhn should be there. That should be Kuhn's position, but Kuhn obviously didn't take this opportunity the way I think he could have, which is quite disappointing. But I think it's one of those ones where you can't win them. You can't score every goal. You know, you need to get into positions. The first most important part. He's getting into positions. Needs to sort of take more chances, I think, because the one early in the game as well. You know, he had that other opportunity that's literally straight off the gate, and it was a slight heavy touch. I think that was what made it the 50-50. I think if he had that little bit more sort of clinical touch, getting to his feet, then he'd be in a lot better position.
Yeah, well, here's another man who gets into good positions and did several times in the game, but this was just weird and kind of inexcusable, Stephen. Hatate, remember this?
Hatate, he got himself in a really good shooting position. I actually think Hatate had an all right second half. I think it was pretty poor first half, but he did decent enough second half. But that was a really, really tame effort, and it was really difficult to understand what happened. He just got himself in a good position and then just trundled almost like a pass back to the keeper. So very disappointing.
It was. Yeah. But what wasn't disappointing was we got the winning goal. Is this going to be the moment, or words to that effect? Yes, it was. Dyson Maeda. Lewis finished it.
Yeah, I don't think there's just Dyson Maeda getting into positions. The biggest frustration I've had with Maeda, I think, since he's joined, is that he's sometimes not as clinical with that last touch, but here he was exceptional. So you never really complain when you do get enough goals, and he does create a lot of opportunities. It's just sometimes you'll get him in a dip and you're like, just that little bit more. But I think he was good. I think he was great at the weekend there. No complaints.
Yeah. He's been much less wasteful in front of goal and with his final ball this season than he has in previous years, I think.
I'd agree if it wasn't for the chance early on. He hit one straight at the keeper, I think, in the first half quite early on. But sometimes it kind of reminds you, it's a bit like PTSD. You're like, come on, like just score those. But I think he made the right move. Across the goal, easy enough.
Seconds later, Kuhn rattles the crossbar, Stephen.
Yeah, and another great effort in goal. We were racking up the shots in goal at this point, and he was very, very unlucky. He wrapped his foot around the ball brilliantly, took it away from the goalkeeper, and really unfortunate that it's hit the woodwork. So I thought Kuhn did a really good game, actually, as did Maeda, and they both showed how valuable they are to the team. Maeda, although sometimes it can be a little bit infuriating, he just makes us a better team. It's almost intangible, and you almost can't put your finger on it, but just when he plays, we just seem to be a better side, and that's why we really miss him so much. I mean, if he had a good first touch or a better first touch, or if he was a better finisher, he certainly wouldn't be playing for us. He'd be playing in one of the top 5 leagues for one of the best teams in Europe. So it's because he's got flaws that he's playing for us, and that we're fortunate enough to have him. But he's having a great season. And as Lewis, I think it was you, Gav, said, he's ironed a lot of the deficiencies out of his game. His finishing seems to be better, and he's got quite a few goals now for the year. So he's having a great year.
Michael's point here, Hatate was good, and back to something of what, I can't see it now, we know he's all about. Opened up Killy a few times with excellent forward passes. He did make a few excellent forward passes. The interesting thing about Hatate is we've said before he's either on it or he's not. He's either having a stormer where he looks like the most talented player in the squad, or he's having an absolute stinker and can't find another shirt. But there was bits of both in this game. He did some things really well and did some things absolutely appallingly. One of the things he did really well was nearly score at this moment. This was a follow-up to the Kuhn one, I think. And he really worked the goalkeeper. It was a good save. He's a bit of an enigma, old Hatate, isn't he?
Yeah, it's frustrating because, like you were saying, like sometimes he just looks unbelievable. You're like, how's this guy in a Celtic shirt? This guy's amazing, best player in the park by a mile. Like, and then sometimes he's just, it's like, rarely would I say he's awful, right? But he's very underwhelming at times. Like,
we don't use that word on this show. We don't use underwhelming. I'm sorry.
It's like he could do more. You know he can do more, and the fact he hasn't done more is really disappointing. It's like you know he's better than that. He knows he's better than that, and when you don't get it, it's frustrating.
Well, my point is that we don't get it often enough anymore. Under Brendan, we just don't get it enough.
I think the problem with Hatate is when he's having a bad game, it's amplified by the fact that he doesn't really chase back and doesn't offer you much defensively. So if he's not contributing in an attacking sense, if he's not, defence splitting passes, then it becomes a very frustrating player to watch because he just doesn't look as if he's contributing at all. And I think that's what infuriates people the most. The performance at Ibrox a few weeks ago was absolutely putrid. And one of the worst midfield performances I think I've seen from a Celtic player in many, many years. And how I think he lasted to the 75th minute until he gets substituted. And I have no idea how he lasted that long. So I think that's the frustration with Hatate. We know what he's capable of doing, but when he doesn't do it, he doesn't bring anything else to the game.
Kaiser here says he can be Hollywood or Deadwood. Nice. Hatate, he is rude. Walks down the middle of the Celtic way, never stops for the fans. Yeah, he's very kind of aloof, isn't he? Never even bends over for the huddle. It's beneath him to bend over at the hip. Likes to keep his head up. Who do you think he is, eh? That's just his way, apparently.
And he refuses to wear a green mouthguard as well, which kind of annoys me a bit.
All right, speaking of other players then who divide opinion and sometimes look as if they're not contributing as much as they should, Ida led a breakaway here, Stevens, remember, and did really well, kept his balance, got through, got to this point, and then he lays it off to Kuhn. What did you think of the layoff? Did he do everything all right?
Yeah, look, I think he's done everything right there. He's through the defender. I was listening to another podcast today, and they were saying they would have liked to see a confident Ida step on it and smash it home himself. But if you look at that position there, the centre half can only do one thing, and that is block the route to goal for the guy who's got the ball, and he's done it. So he's got to feed in either Kuhn or Maeda. And I think he's picked Kuhn because he's closest to him, he's more advanced, and he's got a clear shot and goal. So I think Ida's done everything right there. And it's just down to Kuhn who wasn't able to finish. The keeper did actually make a good save, but and the ref somehow contrived to give a goal kick for some weird reason. But it was a good enough save. But I think from that position there, Kuhn really has to finish. But Ida done everything right.
Did he do everything right? I have a sneaky feeling that he just didn't play it forward enough it forced Kuhn to take a touch and then hit it. In that situation, speaking as a striker myself, I want the ball in front of me so I don't have to break stride. I can just run onto it and smash it home.
I know what you mean. I think if he'd kind of pass it through, he's left-footed, so it's like he's going to push it through on the comfortable side, whereas if he kind of just laid it through, that right-hand side more directly with his right foot, then I think it would have laid into the path of the goal as opposed to his feet. So I know what you're looking for, but at the same time, I think it's difficult when you're when you're expecting the player to just control it anyway. So I think passing to the feet is not even a bad move, especially when you're that sort of you're 3-on-1 effectively defensively. So it should be.
It should have been a goal for sure, definitely. All right then, what's up next? 87 minutes. Kuhn shoots wide. Oh, that was the shot, and Maeda nearly got to it, didn't he? At the far post, could have flung himself maybe, but anyway. 92 minutes, Maeda offside. Stephen, you probably want to rant about this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what was happening with that in that incident, because earlier on to this, there was a forward pass to Ida, and he was quite clearly offside. So, look, they've drawn the lines there, and he looks offside. So you can only say that was the correct decision. But it took forever to arrive at it. They must have took about 3 or 4 minutes to arrive at that decision, and it's just far too slow. And they've got to be better.
See Big Des and Jason and others all saying Pork Chop Express. This idea that Hatate's time is up and he's just not the player he once was, and his inconsistency is too much to bear anymore. That seems to be a growing opinion among the fans. 93 minutes, we're still creating chances. Maeda chance. What does he do? Does he smash this over the bar? I think he does. Remember this?
Like if he's getting into the positions, that's the thing I was saying. Like the frustrating part of Maeda, he has been a lot better admittedly this season, but it's one of those ones where look how many open shots there are. Like if he's not going to take himself, it's like if he's insisting on taking himself, I think he has to do a little bit better. Personally, just because it's a really good position. In fairness, he did get himself into the position, but it's like what you do in that position matters just as much.
I think just looking at the game overall, I think you've got to be pleased with one, the way we played in the first half, and two, the amount of chances we created, but also how we responded to them coming back into the game and scoring. And in the second half already, they lumped the ball forward quite a few times, looking for the big centre forward. But they didn't really get any change out of us. And never at any time did they really look like scoring or putting any real pressure on us. And I think we saw out the game fairly comfortably, as we've just been talking about there. With up 2 or 3 chances, even in stoppage time. So in the context of the Dundee game and what happened there, I think that was why everybody was a little bit nervous. But I think we were fairly comfortable.
Just getting a message from the producer here telling me to go back. Let's go back to that other image. Okay, let's do that. Kaiser says the ball is still on Scales' foot in that image. 1 frame forward, Maeda's onside, and the ball is left the foot, is what he says. And Tony seems to be in agreement. The officials made a mess of this one. I don't think we're going to be seeing that on the monthly chit chat.
Look, I think
referees.
That kind of just shows up the inadequacy of the VAR system that Scottish football's using compared to the one the English Premier League's using, which is kind of like a kind of AI thing, from what I can see. But it's much more advanced, and there's very little room for doubt. And Kaiser's right what he says there. It depends at what point you say the ball's left Scales' foot. And either when you've got players running in opposite directions, sometimes at pace, that can make a lot of difference. So until we upgrade to the proper VAR, and then I think you're going to see quite a bit of these types of decisions.
Well, through to the next round, Lewis. That's the main thing, as it always is. So we've successfully navigated that game, and of course, one of the great highlights of that game is causing Derek McInnes a lot of annoyance. Here's a funny tweet by Seltzer here. If a Derek McInnes side loses to Celtic and he doesn't cry like a wee guy after it, did Celtic really win?
Great tweet.
He loves a greet, doesn't he?
He does.
One thing that really irritates me is that, see, when Brendan Rodgers talks about Derek McInnes, he always talks about him in glowing terms. He always bums him up, says he's a great manager, really good, sets his teams up really well. And I know a lot of this stuff's just what he feels he needs to say. But he also said, I heard Rodgers saying some time ago that he thought Derek McInnes was going to end up down in England, managing maybe a championship club. So he's always bumming him up. Every time Derek McInnes comes to Celtic Park, he just carries on like a greeting-faced wee dick. And even when you see him shaking hands with Rodgers after the game, he barely looks him in the eye. So clearly the feeling's not mutual. As far as Derek McInnes is concerned. And I would like to hear Brendan Rodgers saying, you know what, Derek, you're a wee greeting fanny, shut up.
Yeah, he reserves that kind of wording for the fans, does he not, Brendan? Carry on, Liz.
I'd love to hear Brendan say that about anybody. It could be about me. I don't care. Just coming out his mouth would be hilarious.
But seriously, though, what he was talking about was just a load of absolute pish. It's a clear foul on Trusty. And then he went and said that Celtic took it 20 yards away from where it was meant to be taken. Again, nonsense. It was lucky if it was 5 yards away and it was further back. Celtic took the free kick from further back from where the offence took place, maybe 5 yards at the most. So, total nonsense. And, I'd love to see somebody calling him out on it.
Yeah. Well, we all seem to enjoy watching them suffer. So that's them out of the cup. That's us forward. And so we had two potentially season-defining games. One of them, tick, we're through in the cup. Next one, obviously, absolutely massive. Now, I mean, how important is this game, Lewis? Is this going to define whether this season is a huge success or not?
I would like to say no, but my heart says yeah. My heart says it has to be like the format is. I think we've been gifted probably the best draw we could have had in the new format, and to not take advantage of that in the position that we're in, I think would be really embarrassing for Brendan Rodgers specifically, because we are in a really good position. This is a really great opportunity. There is no reason that we should fumble it at all. So going into the Champions League, whereas young boys at home, we have to win. Like, it's not really a question. I think we have to show that we are a European side, and the only way to do that is to advance.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just distracted by the chat. We're still talking about Derek McInnes. He's saying he's in fact a very good tactician, and others just reveling in his disappointment. Stephen, I don't know if you're with me on this, but a few games ago, I was starting to get a bit anxious about the young boys game because we kind of looked off it, Jesus, and we were playing slowly, and I just think we've sort of stepped it up quite a lot in the past couple of games. I think having Kuhn and Maeda back is absolutely massive. Kyogo has been seeing a lot more of the ball. Looks like he's enjoying himself. Our captain got a goal there. Might get him back on track. I feel like things are lining up for us to do the job. I'm actually pretty positive on the front foot for the young boys game. Are you the same, or do you have more misgivings still?
Well, I think we've got to be positive. We've got to be confident because we have done really well this season in the Champions League, particularly at home, and we've already beaten Leipzig there, who are clearly a better side than Young Boys. And I think it's important we don't. Although Young Boys are in the Champions League, so they have to be given respect, but they're not a good side. I think they've lost all 6 games so far in the Champions League. And their goal difference is sitting at something like minus 19. They're sitting 9th in the Swiss League out of 12 teams. And they're not far above that. They're closer to relegation they are to competing to win that league. So, the way we played in the first half yesterday or at the weekend gives me great hope that we're going to come out and put on an epic European home display and just blow them away. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. But a lot depends on how they approach the game as well. They're already out. They've got nothing really to play for. Now that might take the shackles off them. They might play with a bit of freedom, which might actually play into our hands a little bit. Or they could come and just say, well, let's just avoid a drubbing here, and we'll sit in with a low block and we'll press Celtic high. As plenty of teams have enjoyed doing that this season against us. So it depends how they approach the game. But all in all, we should have enough to get the win. I mean, this is essentially a cup final for us. Win and we're through to the playoff round of the Champions League, which would be a magnificent achievement for the club, considering where we've been in European competition for a number of years. So we should be approaching it as a cup final. And I think Brendan will certainly have done his homework, and a lot of the players will be right up for it. And I'm hoping for a really positive night or morning.
Mahesh here saying Young Boys are a bit of an enigma. Beat Galatasaray at home and away to qualify, but lousy form in the Swiss League and Champions League. Looking at the matchups, very worried about this game, says Mahesh. Celtic's back four need to be on it. Lewis, if they've done their homework and they've seen the kind of tactical approaches that have made life difficult for us recently, what are they going to do, Young Boys, that's going to cause us problems?
I think it depends on on who's starting, right? If Scales is starting, then they attack Scales. That's the reality of it. They just, wherever Scales is, that's where they're playing the balls, unfortunately. But I think you're right in saying that Alistair Johnston's had probably not his greatest patch of form. So I think they could have success down their left wing and our back right. Just because, I think even both sides of the fullbacks have been a bit off pace from where they should be, if I'm being honest. Greg Taylor as well. So I think they would look to try and exploit. If Scales is starting, they would want to be down that right wing, cutting in through Scales' side. That's where they would see success. But if it's not Scales playing, then I think they might attack the left side. But we'll see. I think it's still a bit harder to get past Carter Vickers in general. So they'll be facing a tougher opponent in that sense. But yeah, if they're fast and they get in behind the fullbacks, I think it's going to be rough. We can't afford to make silly mistakes. So I think that's what it'll be down to. It won't be down to like sort of a better sort of tactical setup. I don't think. I think it'll be down to us losing our game, not playing the way we should be playing, as opposed to them doing anything that's particularly outstanding, if I'm honest. And the thing that's really frustrating is I feel like we have made a few too many of those mistakes in the past. From the Derby and then the Dundee game, we did make enough mistakes, I think, that makes it more nervous than it should be. It should be comfortable. It should be easy. The performance we put against Kilmarnock, back to sort of what we expect from Celtic. But yeah, I think it shouldn't be as nervous as I think I am anyway. I'd like it to be easy.
Early goal, as everyone's saying, settle the sweetie rustlers.
I'd love
if we can just be more clinical in the last few games, we could easily get a couple of goals to the good, and then their heads will go down, and it's like a Champions League game again. We're getting hammered. and then it's a relatively easy day at the office for us. If we turn up nervous and they're, as everyone's saying, pressing high or whatever, and man marking McGregor, and keeping the ball in our half, and our defenders are passing it about amongst each other and not sufficiently forward, then that's going to be very uncomfortable. Go on, Stephen. You were going to say.
I think the crowd have got a big part to play in this game. There's been a lot of chat, particularly from Brendanrodgers, about getting on the players' backs when they play a back pass. But I think the circumstances surrounding this game, I think that will take care of itself. I think there'll be a magnificent atmosphere, and if the crowd can get right into the game and make a lot of noise, I think that will drive the team forward. I certainly think that's what happened in the Leipzig game. And I think, the team have certainly got their own part to play in that by getting the crowd up. But I think if we can get on the front foot early doors, then, I think we'll have a lot of joy, because, the Celtic Park on a European night under the lights, with a win taking you into the next stage of the tournament. I mean, you can't ask for any more than that as a player. Or a Celtic supporter, and I'm really, really jealous that I won't be there. It's occasions like that you really miss when you live overseas. So it should be an occasion that the players all relish and the supporters all relish, and hopefully together they can carry us over the line.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I see some people talking about their lack of confidence there in the chat. I'm pretty confident. We will be nervous. We just got to overcome that, play our own game. We should have the quality. I think we've been building to a good performance. I think there's a good performance due, like an undoubtedly good one, where we convert our chances and we put someone to the sword. So I think it's going to be young boys. That's where I'm at. Is that a bit too sugary sweet for you, Lewis?
I like to think you're right, to be honest. Like, I'd like that to be the case where we're building to a bigger performance, because it's a more important one, right? Where the team, obviously, we did have a couple of injuries. Players are coming back into the squad back from that. It's sort of shaping up. They've been in the squad, getting their minutes. They've been performing really well offensively. And then it comes, sort of showtime for the Champions League. But I don't know, I think it's really hard for me to be optimistic. Just because it's Brendanrodgers, if I'm honest. I don't think he's had enough sort of inspired confidence with previous runs in Europe to leave me so confident. That's the sort of shaky part. What's
a bit shaky is that someone's calling me Father Gav. Feels like he's at confession. It's a big days. Well, that's always my favourite fancy dress outfit in the past, is I always go as a priest. And there was one time I was living in London, right? We had a fancy dress party and I went as a priest. And, everyone's like drinking and partying, woohoo. And it was a good party and all that. And people's friends all came. I was sharing a flat with various others. And then on the Monday after the party, one of the girls I live with, a friend of hers in work, was saying, "Oh, it was a great party at your house the weekend. Really enjoyed it. All the people in fancy dress. And yeah, who was that really cool priest that was at your party?" She was like, "What?" There was a cool priest, kind of laid back, was drinking, smoking, really interesting vibes for a priest. He was like, "It's a fancy dress party." That's one of my flips. Anyway, I must have been convincing.
You must have had that. You've got that kind of look about you, haven't you, Gav?
There was another time I did it right, and for a laugh, it was a few years ago, and I thought I'd make myself look more like a priest by shaving the central part of my head, so I just had hair here, thinking that would be hilarious, but I had underestimated how much hair I'd already lost, and nobody noticed. Nobody noticed that it shaved the middle bit. Anyway, that's my dressing up as a priest anecdotes for tonight. It's a little bonus. Alrighty then. Well, we're up to 270 people have joined us. So maybe I should play a little message, should I? To those 270. How long has it been since your last visit to a Celtic World? I should ask them. If it's your first, you're very welcome. And for your penance, I would ask that you subscribe to the show.
Ciao ragazzi. I cannot believe how great a Celtic world is. Magnificent. It's very important to subscribe. Everybody do it immediately. Okay.
How'd you like that little message, Lewis?
Brilliant. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Very good. Okay. Monty suggesting he dresses up as a nun. That's not something we need. A thought that we need in our heads. All right. So, what are your final thoughts then going into this game before we wrap up the show? Stephen, are we going to do it? 3 points, qualification, everything's wonderful in the world, good performance.
Yeah, like I think if you'd offered us this at the start of the season, this scenario, you'd have grabbed it with both hands. So there is, there's jeopardy in every game we play, and things could always go wrong. But I think we have to be confident, and we have to be confident in our ability to win this game. Young boys, I know what Mahesh is saying. They have got some decent players, but they're not a good side. They've only scored 3 goals in the entire Champions League campaign, so we shouldn't really be too concerned about them as long as we've done our homework and sort of know what their strengths are. And if I've always got confidence that we'll score more goals and score the goals we need to get us through. So yeah, I'm very confident.
You want to give us a score prediction?
Yeah, I think 3-0, as was mentioned just there by Alpha 0964. I think 3-0 is probably where we'll land.
Lewis, how are you feeling?
I'm still nervous. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. I think even if we're the winning side, which I think we will be, I don't think it'll be easy. I think it'll be rough. I think there'll be a lot of sort of edge of your seat bum clinching time, but I'm thinking probably 2-1. Yeah, 2-1 I think is probably the score we'll end up with. I think we'll create a lot of chances, but I don't think we'll score as many as 3. And I think there's a chance we make a mistake that lets them get an opportunity that they shouldn't have. That's my prediction.
Okay, there's Will saying 2-0. Yeah, I think it's going to be 2 or 3. I'm not sure. But I think all this worry that we've been through will dissipate when we get a couple of goals to the good. And then it's just a question of whether we, add to that tally. That's what I'm expecting.
I think young boys are going to be a very similar level to Bratislava, where they're sitting just one place below Bratislava in the table. So I think they're roughly the same sort of standard of team. So they will have some technically decent players, but we should be looking to get a few goals.
Well, yeah. The chat is sort of split between people giving predictions and talking about their favorite breakfast ingredients: soda bread, black pudding, haggis, etc. The chat just has a life of its own sometimes. I enjoy that. Are you a soda bread man, Stephen?
Yeah, I don't mind a bit of soda bread. There's a market on here in Manly every weekend, and there's a guy called Paddy the Baker. Comes down with all these Irish stuff like soda bread, potato bread, and all these fancy scones. So yeah, I don't mind a bit of soda bread.
God, I only ever have soda when I go home. And the key to soda bread, of course, is you don't just stick it in the toaster, even if it's wide enough to be toasted, because the top has to be done 2 or 3 times more than the underside. You don't want too much of the underside toasted. Isn't that right, Liz?
I'll agree with
you. just to get on to the next subject. All right, well, look, let's wrap it up with a few little pieces of news here. Burnaby away. We hardly knew ye. That's an interesting way of putting it. We hardly knew ye. That's a kind of expression I reserve for players who came and we never really got a look at them. And then they're gone. But I think we saw plenty of him, enough to know that this wasn't the place for him. Does anyone disagree with that?
No, I agree. I also agree with saying enough from off the pitch as well, that it's enough to know he's not the right fit for the squad. I think his behaviour is quite indicative of what we were going to expect from him as he grew as a player. And I think the fact he's away it's not a surprise.
I mean, frying soda bread is just like pouring oil down your throat, isn't it? That's
what we
bad
do,
enough.
though, isn't it? That's what we do. That's the whole point of a fried breakfast, isn't it?
But soda bread is like a big sponge. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, that's that. What's next? Well, cheerio, Bernabe. Thanks for the memories. And Shona Kyogo, as the name might suggest, is a big fan of the birthday boy. He's 30 today, isn't he? I think that's today.
Yep.
Happy 30th birthday to this happy, funny, talented boy. Thank you for being at Celtic. I hope your day is as cool as you. Love you. Everyone loves Kyogo. There's no doubt about it. He's 30-year-old man, but acts like a wee boy half the time. But and then people complain about infantilizing him. Oh, it's terrible the way our fans infantilize Kyogo. But he sort of acts like a wee boy on purpose, doesn't he? That's his shtick, right?
Yeah, that's his thing, isn't it? Yeah, he's 30 years old, and I think, he is sort of getting towards the end of his, not the end, but the latter part of his career. So I really hope that he doesn't leave, and certainly not this window. There's been a little bit of chat about it, but I think it would be terrible for us if he was to move on. Even if we sign a replacement this window, I would like to see him. If he has his heart set in a move, then it would have to be in the summer for me, with his replacement being signed now.
Well, I'm loving seeing him getting more of the ball, playing out left like he is. He seems to be really enjoying himself.
Yeah,
and
I don't think we'll lose him. I think he's too old. I think the fact that he is 30, but playing the way he is perfect for us, because I don't think that a sort of bigger, more cash flush club is going to come in and take that sort of big spend on a 30-year-old the way they would if he was 24. If he was 24, he'd be gone. I think the fact he's 30 is why we're so fortunate to have him, I think.
I don't know how old McLaughlin P is, but he says, I assume it's a he, my mum still gave me 100 kisses for my birthday yesterday as if I'm an 8-year-old. Isn't that nice? That's not the kind of thing you often see in the comments.
It's a lot of kisses, isn't it? 100?
One for each year.
Very good. Oh, he's 45. There you go. Well, you can never have enough kisses from your wee mammy. That's what I say. And speaking of family ties, classy gesture from Celtic, says Coco on Twitter, presenting Luis Palma with this on his birthday, including pictures of his grandparents who passed away recently. Don't know if you can see those, but there he is with his grandmother and different members of his family. Presumably that's his grandfather there. So it strikes me that he's a player that's going to leave with nothing but good things to say about Celtic, even though he didn't really shine here, unfortunately, in the way that he could have. Stephen, right?
Yeah, I think he is. He has got one foot out the door, and I think it's probably the right thing for both the club and for him as a player in his career. But you never hear a bad word said about him from anyone inside Celtic, and they're all very effusive in their praise of how hard he works. And he's clearly got quite a sort of bubbly personality, and he's fitted in really well with the squad. He's always right in the middle of celebrations when we win things or when we score goals and stuff like that. And I feel a bit sorry for him. Everyone would have loved for him to work out for him here, but it just really hasn't. And I think it's time for him to move on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've just got to keep acting young, don't you, in life? It's all about how you act. If you act like an old fuddy-duddy, then you're in trouble. That's when you become one, right? I mean, we're like a bunch of overgrown wee boys doing this, aren't we?
Correct.
Stephen?
I don't feel, to be honest with you, I don't feel any different. Well, certainly not, maybe physically, but I don't feel any mentally different than from when I was 25, and that's the honest truth.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting on this this growing up thing everybody keeps talking about.
Yeah. And my wee boy's 10 now, and like we just mess about all the time. You know, like my wife complains she has 2 sons, and one of them is her husband. Like you go to the supermarket or something, the 2 of us are like wrestling and fighting and chasing each other about. She's like, "What the hell have I done to deserve this?" And my wee boy's kind of like sometimes wonders why I don't act more like a daddy until I have to, and then it's brutal when the hammer has to come down. He's like, "Oh my God." All right. Anyway, that was good. Lots of fun. Lots of interesting tangents. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for your contributions, as always. That was very good. And, geez, next time we speak is Thursday, which will be the Young Boys review, looking back at the Young Boys game. When is the Young Boys game, Stephen? You mentioned it earlier.
It's Thursday morning here in Sydney. It's a 7 a.m. kickoff here, so you can work out your time difference from there.
4 a.m. for me on Thursday morning. That is brutal. That is brutal. You're lucky, you people in Europe, eh? It's 5 a.m. for you, Lewis. 4, 5, and 7.
Yeah.
Where will you be watching?
The kickoff times recently have just been horrendous for us. It's been terrible. Another 4:30 for me on the weekend there. So hopefully maybe next year we can get back to more midday at home kickoffs, which is far more civilized for us.
Yeah.
Even though we're all still youngsters, still need a decent night's kip. All right, Paul will be hosting on Thursday because I'm in the process of moving house and I can't risk hosting a show on Thursday. I don't really know what state my new office or whatever it is in room in the house is going to be. It should be ready, but can't guarantee it. And we like to maintain quality here, Lewis, for our beloved viewers and listeners. So yeah, Paul will be hosting that. And we'll be looking back at the Young Boys game, and we'll be talking about what's going on with us this season in the Champions League. Imagine we're talking about a superlative victory and straight into the playoff for the last 16. That'll be awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. Thanks again to everyone in the chat. We will see you on Thursday. Until next time, I bid you all. I'm padding this out so I can remove this. Adieu. Cherry bye. Good luck. Come on, Taylor.